Today we're going to talk about what actually makes an ex think about you in the post-breakup period. Now my team and I have been studying this for quite a while, and believe it or not, we found that one quality above all others matters most when it comes to making an ex think about you. And no, it's not texting correctly or saying the right thing. In fact, if you do this right, you're not going to really have to say anything. So, what is it? Well, you're gonna have to watch the rest of this video to find out. But first things first, something really important I need to discuss with you, and that's your ability to hit that like or subscribe button for our YouTube videos. It really helps us out a ton with the YouTube algorithm, so if you're finding value in what we're doing here on this channel, if you could please just simply like one of our videos or subscribe to our channel, I would be really grateful. So I think first the most important thing to understand how this one thing works, we need to have a little bit of background on the sphere of influence. Now yesterday I was reading through the comments of my most recent YouTube video and stumbled across this comment. So the comment basically says, this 100%. Whenever I have a new store manager take their own store, I talk to them the day before and they're usually scared. I give them one piece of advice: surround yourself with people who can do what you cannot do. This is advice that I've given to many managers over the years, yet I've never thought to incorporate it in my own life. Thank you, Chris, for putting that into perspective. You are truly amazing. So basically, the comment is saying the old adage of you are who you surround yourself with. And this is the essence of the sphere of influence. Now, the sphere of influence is nothing more than a collection of individuals who your ex surrounds themselves with, whose opinions that they take into account and matter to them. So I want you to take a minute and look at this graphic. Now this is the sphere of influence, and notice that there are four distinct categories. You have intimate relationships, and these are the people whose opinions matter greatly to you. You have close relationships. Their opinions also matter, but not as much as the intimate person's opinions. Then you have casual relationships. Their opinions aren't crucial, but you do kind of take them into account. And then of course you have distant acquaintances. We don't really take their opinions into account much at all. This is the sphere of influence in a nutshell. Your ex, whoever they surround themselves with, can influence their decisions. Now, it's not necessarily enough to make them change their mind, but it has been proven to be a pretty effective method. So, I've teased you long enough. What is the one thing that makes a difference on making your ex think about you more in the post-breakup period? Well, it's actually something that relates to the sphere of influence, obviously, and I like to call it the selling theory. Now let's take a step out of the relationship world for a minute and talk about the business world. How does one sell a product? Well, is it as simple as a customer knowing, liking, and trusting an individual? Well, I think that's a part of it, but not the whole equation. According to this Forbes article, recommendations are the #1 factor across all stages of the purchase cycle, from becoming initially aware of the product right on through the actual purchase decision. Other areas such as advertising or online sources of information are important for one or another phase, but not throughout. And none are as important as recommendations. And it makes sense. You're a lot more likely to buy something based on the opinion of someone who you know, like, and trust, a friend or a family. And sometimes it's as simple as seeing a family member have a new cool pair of headphones and being like, I want those are super cool, and then going out and buying it, and then you get in debt, but that's a whole nother story. But relationships kind of work the same way, especially when it comes to the sphere of influence. Now imagine you have two people. You have person A and person B. Now person A has a great relationship with your sphere of influence. Your family loves them, your friends love them, even your coworkers love them. And then of course you have person B, who has a horrible relationship with your sphere of influence. Your friends hate them, your family hate them, your coworkers hate them. So, to put this in product terms, who's a lot more likely to get the nod/recommendation from your sphere of influence? Person A. So your ex is a lot more likely to listen to people who they are closely surrounded with. So intimate relationships and also close relationships are what matter most, which means there's really only a collection of a handful of individuals that each person has whose opinions they really take into account that can kind of sway your ultimate truth. Except what we're talking about in this video is something a little bit different. We're trying to figure out how to get someone's attention. And what I'm basically saying here is that if you want to get your ex's attention, you can do that through the sphere of influence. So you need to do something so noteworthy that you get your sphere of influence's attention, and then that sphere of influence tells your ex about it. And if it's coming from the sphere of influence, people who they know, like, and trust, it's a lot more likely to be kind of that stamp of approval. But it's not always so simple. How do you do something noteworthy? So I'm gonna give you an example of something that I consider to be noteworthy. Now lately, I've been watching a lot of triathlon content on YouTube, and as YouTube works, it has this recommendation cycle and it always recommends these new videos to me. Anyways, I'm constantly recommended this one video right here. Don't know the guy, don't have any affiliation with him, but I watched the video and came away super impressed. So this dude traveled to Cancun to race in his first official Ironman triathlon. He's in incredible shape, he completed it, and by the looks of his YouTube channel, if you kind of look, he's done even crazier stuff. He's actually went and run an ultra marathon. That means he's run a marathon that isn't 26 miles, but rather 100 miles in one day. So you know what gets people talking? Accomplishing stuff like this. I mean, even if you dislike the guy, you have no choice but to admit that what he is doing is impressive. And that is how you get your ex's attention. Do something so impressive, so noteworthy that your sphere of influence talks to your ex about it, your ex starts thinking about it, and it becomes almost like Inception. Your ex's sphere of influence plants the idea in their head and it grows until that's all that they think about. But the problem is that most people who are probably watching this video defeat themselves before they even begin. They don't think that they're capable of doing something like this. It doesn't even have to be physical. I mean, I'm using physical just because that's the lowest hanging fruit. But I'm finding that most people fail at doing this for a combination of reasons, and they're always self-imposed. Either they're lazy, their lack of discipline, heartbreak has gotten to them. They don't know how to set goals. They set too small of goals. The typical excuses. The truth is, most people would rather sit on a couch, eating ice cream, feeling sorry for themselves, watching the latest episode of Selling Sunset than doing something that requires actual hard work. Now, not to say people are lazy. They're not. They're going through a really difficult time with a breakup, and oftentimes that breakup defeats them. But my argument is that instead of allowing the breakup to defeat you, you need to defeat the breakup. Make it an enemy. So I often have one rule for myself when it comes to this. I'm not allowed to do anything fun until I've done something to earn that fun. How do I earn it? By making progress with my global goals. And for me, that's filling up my trinity every single day. Doing something positive for health, doing something positive for wealth, doing something positive for relationships. For me, that's a perfect day. I never feel fulfilled unless those three things happen. So, like always, I'm gonna use myself as a guinea pig to prove my point. I wanna take you through an average day of Chris Seiter, yesterday. Because yesterday was as close to a perfect day as I think I'm ever going to get. And I think that if you simply approach your life the way I approach mine, not only will you be able to do noteworthy things, but your ex will start to pay attention because you'll just naturally want to post some of the stuff you're accomplishing on social media. Check our social media content and how the rules of social media work to figure out how to do that. So I'm gonna do this by showing you my global goals for my Holy Trinity. So first we have health. My goal is to complete an Ironman, hence me looking at the triathlon content. For wealth, I'm often writing for ex-boyfriend recovery, filming YouTube videos, trying to improve exposure on that, but also I'm writing a fantasy book. And I'm really hoping that I can transition to where that becomes my full-time job. And then of course, relationships is pretty much, I've got the dream already. Just spending time with my daughters, spending time with my wife, that's what makes me happy. So what you're gonna see up on your screen right now is actually a screenshot of an app I use to track my work day. As you can see, on average, I like to work between 6 to 8 hours per day, but my schedule is a little bit weird. You'll notice that yesterday specifically, I worked all the way up until 3:40 a.m. That's because my wife and I have a newborn and the schedule is all out of whack. So I'm working whenever I get the opportunity to work. But of course, I'm not tracking things like health or relationship-based things. This is simply work. So yesterday I worked about 8 hours, but I don't want to talk about that yet. Instead, I want to talk about the health-based goal. So luckily I did time my health-based Holy Trinity thing. I have an Apple Watch right here, and I usually use it to track workouts. Since I'm training for an Ironman right now, I'm actually going through a knee surgery recovery. So I can't do the triathlon, swim and run that I typically would like to do. All I'm cleared to do right now is exercise bike. But exercise bike is boring, so I always like to make things more difficult for myself. So this week I'm trying to do a 100-mile week, which means on Monday, I need to ride the bike for 17 miles, Tuesday, 17 miles, Wednesday, 17 miles, Thursday, 20 miles, Friday, rest, Saturday, a long day, 30 miles, and then Sunday, rest. So yesterday, I rode my bike for approximately 1 hour and 1 minute, and I went 17 miles. You can see that data right here. There we go. Wealth is where things get kind of interesting. I spent close to 8 hours working on wealth-based things yesterday, which means I wrote for almost 3 hours and 40 minutes on my book. Again, writing a fantasy novel. I spent over 2 hours talking to an editor that I hired for that book. He was giving me tips on how to improve and also editing my actual work from last week. And then I spent a little over 2 hours planning and filming videos for this YouTube channel. I don't just come up with this stuff off the cuff. I actually have to research and figure out what I'm going to say. So yesterday was a big book writing day for me. Almost 5 hours total if you include me talking to the editor. So not all of my days look like this. Oftentimes it's the opposite. I'm spending most of my time filming YouTube videos, writing articles, coaching, doing things of that nature related to the breakup business. But every once in a while I have to have a big writing day so that I can stay on top of writing. But I am writing every day. So that's my average work day on wealth-based things. And then relationships, again, I didn't chart this here, but I know for a fact that I spent about 3.5 hours with my family last night just doing what they wanted to do. And then I got back to working. So I basically spent the night with my daughters, helped my wife put my daughters to bed, and that was it for me. I went downstairs. So basically, all of that work for me was a perfect day. And the idea here is that each one of these aspects of the Trinity is going to yield some noteworthy result at the end. It's not like I can become noteworthy immediately. You have to earn your way there. So the Ironman is not going to happen until obviously I train and qualify for an Ironman. The wealth-based stuff, I'm a little noteworthy in the breakup industry, but again, I'm trying to focus more on that fantasy novel. So I'm doing everything I can to become the best writer that I can be when it comes to writing prose and things of that nature and character arcs and stuff like that. So hopefully that pans out. But I know that even if it fails, I'll have done everything in my power to make it noteworthy. And then of course, relationships, I'm already living the dream. So I'm just trying to maintain the dream. But here's the thing. One of the experiences that really informed my thinking on how people react to breakups was actually one of my first coaching clients ever. This person who really wanted a coaching session with me was the first one in line to get it. I did the coaching session, gave them a specific game plan to follow, and then said, hey, if you want a follow-up session, here's a discount code. You can do a follow-up session with me. Again, I'm not trying to pitch coaching here at all. I'm just trying to tell you the story. So after a couple of weeks, I noticed that this person signs up for a follow-up session with me. And I'm excited because not only is this my first follow-up session, but I gave this person homework. So surely they're going to be further along than they were when I first talked to them. And I come to find out during the second session, they hadn't done anything that I had recommended. And when I asked them, hey, why? Why didn't you do anything? Their excuse was, I don't have time. So I kind of held their feet to the fire a little bit and asked them, well, show me what you're doing with your schedule. Like, why don't you have time? Now, the person did have a job, so they were working close to 6 to 8 hours a day, similar to me. But the second they got home, their excuse was, I'm tired. I just want to sit back and relax. And they basically blew 4 to 5 hours of potentially productive time on Netflix. So all the stuff that they could have been doing to enrich their lives, they were too lazy to do, and their excuse was, I'm tired. That's not going to get it done. Here's the thing. My ability The one thing that I think I'm really good at, better than most people, is the ability to grind. Because I know when other people are sleeping, I'm working. When other people are tired, I'm working. When other people just want to take a day off, I'm working. And I feel like most people after a breakup, especially when they're needing to do something active and productive, they kind of need to get this mentality. Doing something noteworthy is not going to happen overnight. Getting your ex's attention this way is not going to happen overnight. It takes small steps every single day. And it takes doing things you don't want to do every single day to get you there. Do you think I wanted to write for almost 4 hours on a book? I would have been fine writing for an hour. It's fun for an hour. But by hour 4, or close to hour 4, it becomes daunting. Now it's fun after a while, but I'm saying it's not like how I wish I could spend a vacation, but I know that I'm doing it when no one else is. I know that I'm spending more time researching these videos than most people are. Most people are just probably gonna sit in front of a camera and come with a basic paragraph of what they're gonna say and then just riff. Not me. I spend hours trying to figure out what I'm gonna say in these videos because I know that if I just inspire one person, that will make all the difference in the world. So you wanna get your ex thinking about you? Do something noteworthy that gets your sphere of influence talking about it and then gets them to talk to their ex about it, which ultimately raises your value in their eyes.